Okay, so today I thought I was going to have some fun, play in my journal, have some journal play, if you will. And I have a reasonable size. No, but I have quite a lot of books that I have bought just because I like the images or that kind of stuff. This is one of the books that I bought just because I like the idea of it, and I will never sit down. I don't think I will ever sit down, read it just to read it, but I love all the elements in here. So I thought, two birds, one stone sort of thing, to sit down with this, pick out a few elements or a few items in this book, draw them, read a bit about them, learn, have fun, you know. Okay. So this is the life of the Vikings in 200 items, very roughly translated. Apparently it was not written in Swedish, so we might have an English. Oh, okay, so the original title is Pocket Museum Vikings. Yeah, so it's actually published in, it's from London. But yeah, so let's see here. Like I said, I don't think I will actually read it, but yeah, I think it's really fun. So here we have a map over the Nordic countries, which for me is quite familiar because this is the map I always see when we, when we look at the weather or something on TV. This is the map, and they always go through the whole, because they see us as one, sort of. But yeah, I don't know what that is. So I live about, I don't want to draw in it, but point of the pen, I would say I live there. About. Or there. Maybe even here. Yeah, it's somewhere along here. So southwest of Sweden. Here is where I usually go on holiday, Öland and Gotland. And we go up here to go skiing. So yeah, that's about it. I have worked in Norway, and I think I worked along here. I think it was about there or there. So yeah, that is about that. This is Finland. We have a puppy living in Finland, so yeah. Anyway, that is about it. Here we have a bit of a broader activity. So we have a lot of really cool stuff, and I don't really know how to choose one. I suppose I'll just, maybe we could start with this one. So the first image that I'm choosing to take some inspiration from is on page 30 of this book, and it is a pendant, and it's a Valkyria. And in the Nordic religion, mythology, whatever you want to call it, Valkyria is typically identified as a woman with weapons, and that is why they call this figure a Valkyria. Now, the Valkyrias were sent out by Odin. Odin was like the king of the gods, like he was the number one. So he had Valkyrias, and he sent them out into the battlefield to pick out the special ones who had fallen to sit with him in his Valhalla after the death, and to eat with him. So they were very special in that way. But also here in the book, they mentioned that, but they also mentioned that a different interpretation of this could be that it wasn't a Valkyria, it was just a female warrior, that there was female Vikings, which is very interesting. I think that we as a society, when we look into the older times, that we are so quick on putting our thoughts and our perspectives and everything onto how they lived back then. So for us, it's so unimaginable that the woman could have sort of equal, quote unquote, status as the men and fight as the men, because that would not happen today. But yeah, however, this piece right here, it's only 3.4 centimeters tall. I think that is, I mean, if you look at it, it's insane how much detail they could get out of this. Now this is gilded silver. I mean, the detail of this is insane. Yeah, I find it so unbelievable what they could do with all of these. It's just so pretty. And if nothing else, it shows the very traditional hairstyle. Her hair is being pulled back into sort of like a knot on the back of her head, and then it sort of flows down from there. We also get a hint of her skirt, and then of course the weapons and the shield. But yeah, I just find that very, very fun to see that, and getting that sort of like, is it a Valkyria, like something unnatural, if you will, or is it just a woman? Could it be that she had this like as a representation of herself, like a female Viking going out? Could it be this being an image of somebody lost in battle, like a mother or a wife, a sister? Could that be something that somebody kept on them to keep her close? I don't know. It's very interesting to think about. Okay, the next one I picked out is on page 119, and it's a big beverage vessel. It was found in Coppersgate, York, in the Great Britain, and it's 44 centimeters high, and that's a pretty big drinking vessel. It says that this big, almost complete, was found in York during an excavation, and the reason why it's almost complete is because the conservators, they pieced together 170 pieces. I mean, if you look really close at the you can see some lighter cracks where they have where the original ceramic, I suppose, peeks through, where it's not glazed. It's also done on one of those potting wheels, which I think is kind of amazing. So they think this was done 90,000 after Christ. That is amazing that they had like pottery wheels. I don't know why I find that so amazing, but yeah. But also what's really cool is that they say that this type of ceramic comes from 80 kilometers from where they found it. It's actually, they think it comes from Torksey in Lincolnshire, and it was put on a boat and to go 80 kilometers up the river to York. And it's really odd that York then doesn't have this kind of ceramic industry that Lincolnshire has. Anyway, as you can see, it has a lot of different odd handles. They don't know if that is to help with the pouring of the drink, or if it's like you can like tie ropes and then move it faster or safer. They don't know, but it's really, really cool. And yeah, I mean, I really like the shape of it. I really like all of these little details, and it says that the details is thumbed decoration, so they use their thumbs, I suppose, to get all of these little indents all over. And I just really like the color of it, and that sort of reddish orange rusty color peeking through. And yeah, I just get so amazed that people like 1,000 years ago could make something like this that we can still have today. I mean, even though it's glued together, obviously, but still, I mean, this is something in theory we can use today, and the stuff we make today we can barely use for a year without it breaking. Yeah, and that even though they had such limited resources in what they were doing, and I assume limited knowledge too, they still put so much effort and just the decoration here. I mean, this was not something fancy that because it says that this was not a vessel to be served drink at a table, but you still put so much effort into it in just the decoration. I find that so, yeah, I really like that. Okay, so this is one of those I find very fascinating. It's called Silver Head, and it's on page 138 and 139. And as you can see, I mean, it's a face made of silver, and it's very stylized, little pendant. It's about 3.5 centimeters, and they were found in Östergötland, so that's the east part of Sweden. What I found so fascinating about this is that when you look at it, it is so clearly, it's so not Vikings. So it says here in the text that because of how it's shaped, the style of it, and the sort of bird-like headdress, it reminds of a time before the Viking Age. But they found it in a Viking tomb or grave, and it has to be very old when it was buried with this person. And that is what I find so fascinating, is that when we find stuff, we're so quick in saying this is that is at that time. If we find a closet full of clothes and we find 3 pieces that are so clearly the 60s, we just assume that everything is that, and that is what they wore. But what is to say that in the closet filled with 1960s clothes, there is not a dress from the 30s that belonged to this person's grandmother that she liked to wear? I mean, I really like that that they kept, like, they treasured this old, and that we can, I don't know how to put it into words really, but this thing that it's not always just the stuff from this specific time period. It's not just the stuff from that time period we will find in, for example, a grave from that time period. We can find older stuff too, and that is what I think is so fun, because if we look at the life we live today, I have a lot of influence, a lot of images and that kind of stuff from all over, but let's say 1910 or 1920s. I love the patterns from 1920s. So that is a big part of the visual language that I have. So I mean, so this silver head, even though it's much older than the Viking Age, it was still something relevant to the Viking Age, even though it was so much older. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think that is what drew me to this image that is so stylized and could look perfect into something we make today. But it was dug down. It says here, dug down 900, around 900. It was dug down then. That's when they were like, we're going to bury it. It was not when it was made. I guess, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so the next item I picked out is from 950 to 1000, and this was found in Hedeby in Germany. And from what I gather, around this time, Hedeby was a huge city. for the Vikings in Germany, and it was a very important trade place where people came to trade. So yeah, but what's really interesting about this, it's a needle. It says it's a needle with a dragon head, and it's 16.2 centimeters. It looks to be a very thick needle, and from what I gather, it's a needle you have in your clothes, so not in your hair, from what I can gather. And it says that this dragon head has been a symbol for the Vikings, but the stereotypical Viking design is not Scandinavian. So the dragon head you can see on the needle here is actually, I can't really say that is traditional Scandinavian. It's not something that I have seen. Now, I am not a Viking researcher, so it could be that too. But similar to this design of dragon's head, they have found in northern Scotland, but they think that this sort of dragon head sort of had a renaissance in Norway and in Denmark. So that is really fun that that even though we say that this is a Viking item, just like they were inspired by other things. I mean, I can be inspired by Viking things, even though I don't really have a connection to them because they are long dead. I could say I have a connection to them because they're my ancestors, but I mean, I don't really have any communication with them. But I think it would be a really fun idea to imagine the Vikings from Norway or Denmark traveling to Scotland, getting some ideas and inspiration from their motifs and their icons, colors, patterns, and then bringing that inspiration back to Norway and Denmark or Sweden, and mixing that up with the inspiration we have here, or the traditional things we have here, or to Germany in this case. I think that is really fun, and to think that when we look through Instagram and YouTube and everything, and we take inspiration and we like, oh, can we do that? Is that not just copying? But that is how we have always done. That is how we have always learned and explored and have grown in our artistic skills, I would say. I mean, that is just how we have to do that. I mean, we can't learn if we are not copying somebody else, to learn how they did it and then take how we like to do stuff and then mix it all together. And I think this needle sort of speaks about that. And yeah, I really like it. I mean, I don't like the needle. I don't really like the design, to be honest, but I like the idea of this needle. On page 98 in this book, I think we can find the most amazing thing. It is a cast form of a dragon head. And this dragon head is much more the typical style that I have grown up seeing, that is associated with Viking and Viking dragons. So this, on page 98, we can see the mold, and I mean, it's just a stone. It's a stone that is rich in talc, so it's quite soft and makes it quite easy to carve out to make the mold. And then on page 99 we can read a bit more about it, but we also see how the cast looks. So yeah, okay, so this was found in Birke, and Birke is like during and it was they believe it's from about 900, but Birke is in Sweden, and it was the biggest like Viking, quote unquote, place up here in Scandinavia, and they believe that they lived about 15 to 3,000 people, 1,500 to 3,000 people, and there's a big difference from how Vikings typically lived. Typically, there were just a few smaller families lived out on their farms, but then we have Birka, which was huge. Okay, so it was the biggest cosmopolitan hub in Scandinavia during the Viking ages. But the piece here on the left, the cast, the mold, it was found 1887 by a farmer, Johan, and he found this on his farm just where Birka used to live. Birka, the town, we don't have that in Sweden anymore. Stockholm is pretty close to it. But then a few later, well, not a few later actually, sorry, 2015, they found the dragon head, the one I am drawing. So they found that, and they could immediately see that this was cast from this stone mold, and I think that is amazing. I mean, it's very, very tiny. It is about 4 centimeters. Okay, and just look at, I mean, you can see the level of detail in these the bronze dragon head we have on the right. There is insane amount of detail. If you look at it, almost looks like fire going out on the side of the dragon. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that is what keeps coming back to me when I look through stuff. I mean, we can take any time period really, but Viking, of course, is quite close to me. It's something we read quite a lot about in school, and I mean, I am Swedish, very, very Swedish, so it could be that. But the level of craftsmanship and details these Vikings could do with such limited supplies is just mind-blowing. When I'm thinking about what I am creating, and how much I feel like I quote-unquote need, that I like, oh, I'm going to paint this landscape, but first I need to buy a new brush, and I need 2 more paints, and this paper is not the best, so I think I need to try 3 more before I can settle on one. I mean, yeah, and here you have a whole book of 200 items made out of metal, stone, bone, fabric, leather, and you can, I mean, the reason why we have a book filled with these items is because they last. They are made so amazingly, not just in design, but in quality, and yeah, I feel like just that it's made to last. I mean, this stuff that the Vikings made, if that is necklaces, jewelry, silver heads, Valkyria, whatever, the items that they were made partly to look good and to impress your neighbors, but also something that you can keep forever. And when they say forever, it's not like, yeah, 4 or 5 years. Forever is forever. And judging by what has been found in and what the state of the items are, they probably will last forever, or halfway there. I mean, yeah, I find that fascinating. the last piece I want to talk about you can find on page 135, and it is the Hammer of Thor. Now this image, or this icon, the Hammer of Thor, I mean, you can buy lots of jewelry today with the same Hammer of Thor thing. It is an what should we call it? It's an icon that is still very much easy to find in Sweden today, and I think that is why I wanted to save it for last. And it's something I don't have a Hammer of Thor, but I know many friends had that growing up. It's something that feels very like almost. It sort of almost have the same meaning as a cross, even though I don't know anybody in Sweden who worships the Asagudarna or prays to Thor or to Odin, other than to curse. But yeah, I feel like there is something deep within us still. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, this Hammer of Thor is very unique anyway, because it's very, very richly decorated. Now this was, they believe it's from 900 to 1000. They think that it was part of a treasure that was buried down in the beginning of the 1000, and that the piece of jewelry in of itself has been worn for many, many years before it was dug down. It was found in Ödeshög, and it's southeast of Sweden, I think. And they say that pieces like this, very ornate and decorated, can be found very, very concentrated in the south and east of Sweden. And if you think about it, the south and the southeast of Sweden is where you go with your boat up to Birka, with the trade, so that makes perfect sense. It's about 6.5 centimeters and it's made of silver. What's unique about this, apart from all of these very, very pretty metal work on the actual hammer, the little loop here, it's shaped like a bird's head, which is very unique. So yeah, and it says that it was probably used as an amulet, or also like a piece of jewelry that was symbolizes identity or status, because it is so richly decorated. So yeah, so this little exercise that I had in my book here, I had so much fun. Not only did I just, it was a lot easier because I didn't really have to think. It was just sitting down, paging through the book, choosing something and doing it. So that was really, really like letting go of control, so you don't have to choose in a way. So that was really, really fun. I think I will do this more often, just picking a book and letting the book sort of determine what I do when I feel like I don't want to make decisions. I also really like that learning more. I mean, I love learning, and sometimes I feel like I can't like take in anymore in my head, and I feel like this was a really good exercise, sort of having fun and drawing and then getting some more information, but very, very short. I mean, there's not a big pages filled with of each item. It's just a little blurb about each, and I think that was perfect and still get you to think a little bit. But what I really, really like about it is that I wasn't too precious about what I was drawing. I just tried to be loose, have fun, try different techniques, and I mean, none of these are very good, the drawings, but I had a lot of fun testing out new techniques and painting like tarnished metal, rusted metal, I don't know what to call it, but all of these had a very unique, a tattered look, I would say, and I am not good at drawing that, but I had a lot of fun testing new techniques with the colors I typically used. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself and found a lot of inspiration. I really like how this silver head turned out. It doesn't look like the one in the book, but it doesn't have to. And of course, I really like the bronze dragon that was cast in the mold. I think that turned out really, really cool. I'm adding a little bit of gold paint, Gloria, to the hammer of Thor, because, you know, it's Thor's hammer. So. But yeah, that is my process. I had so much fun doing this. And for me, it's sort of like looking back and imagining that maybe my ancestors had some of these items. Maybe it was icons or motifs that they were very familiar with. And like I said, that, for example, the needle, the dragon needle, is something that feels very unfamiliar to me, whereas the vessel, the hammer of Thor, and the bronze dragon feel very much more familiar. And I feel like that is a bit odd, that we can feel such feelings from elements that were created more than 1,000 years ago. I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope this have brightened your day, felt some inspiration. I don't know. I hope you have liked it. And yeah, come back on Saturday if you want to watch a new vlog.